Ohlone people. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on the traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Thank you. Barbara, will you take the roll call?
Yes. Trustee Burdall?
Here.
Trustee Burkini?
Here.
Trustee Doggett?
Here.
Trustee Patel?
Here.
And Trustee Villalobos?
Here.
Thank you.
The district digitally records the audio and video portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken for 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. Great. The board met in closed session regarding the comprehensive school safety plans and security of school facilities, the tactical portion, and the board voted 5-0 to pass those safety plans. We also met regarding litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D, Section D2, and the board voted 5-0 to approve that litigation settlement. All right. Are there any? Let's see, where are we? Are there any questions regarding the minutes of January 19th, 2022 regular Board of Trustee meeting? So let me go around the room. Trustee Badal?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2022 regular Board of Trustees meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall?
Yes.
Trustee Burkini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Patel?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, all items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed on the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the agenda and consent agenda? And I'll go around the room again. I'll start with Trustee Villalobos. You have any questions?
I'm just wondering if we were able to get somebody from City Council to present.
Just as we go into that, I'm going to text Mike O'Neill and Kevin Woodhouse, and they're going to join us, not per se for a presentation, but to answer any questions that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Trustee Burdall?
No questions.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Burdall?
Yes.
Trustee Burkini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Patel?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. So let's start with LSEA.
LSEA has nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. CSEA. Or CSEA, I'm sorry. You're muted, Nicole. We can't hear you.
Darn it. Okay. Hi, my name is Nicole Sayers and I am the president of CSEA. Tonight, I would like to let you know that members of our negotiations teams worked together and were able to identify the items that needed to be updated and that we feel we would like to change within our collective bargaining agreement. About an hour ago, our members voted to proceed with the successor agreement, and I'm happy to pass it on to all of you for approval. We look forward to the next few months of negotiations with the district team. So far, the district and CSEA have had much success with negotiations, and we expect that momentum to move forward as we continue to negotiate. Our above and beyond recipients for January were Yalud Gutierrez, our food delivery driver, and Melissa Rivera, our payroll technician. Both these recipients deal with various issues as they come up, but continue to be hardworking, kind, and helpful to all of us. We thank you, Alud and Melissa, for the great jobs you do every day. Years ago, CSEA raised funds for an outdoor education assistance program. The district then took the cost of sending the students to outdoor education, and we have held the money ever since. Now we have decided to use the funds to create the CSEA Youth and Family Fund. We are just beginning the process of putting the program together, but our hope is that we eventually will be able to assist students and families with small funding needs. We are in the beginning stages, but we will keep you posted as we move this project forward. As always, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. People wishing to address the board.
We have Michelle Gray.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to chat, and I am paying attention to the 3-minute timer. So I wanted to give a quick update. At the last meeting, I had come forth with a couple of other people and just requested some time with the district on what we can do with the school fields. Since that time, a lot of progress has been made. So I really just want to give some pats on the back and an update. I've met with Heather. Thank you so much for your time. With Josie, really appreciate your time, and we got into some details there. We've identified a couple of fields, which are quite frankly outdoor classrooms, that we feel the community members and I are going to be able to have some impact on. So Valleymar being one, and a quick update on that. It looks like we're going to be able to get a partnership with a community organization that Pacifica School District is well aware of, to be able to help offset the costs of updating the infield and outfield. And then I'm really happy to report that the Valleymar PTO, great organization, last night at their meeting, after I had a presentation and answered some questions, are showing some strong support to be able to put their own funds in to get that field up to date. So we've already made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks, and now we're moving on to IBL, to Odsted, which is not a school field, but it is nonetheless an important field for our community. And also to see what we can do with Ortega until construction begins. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an update that this continues to be a real need for the community, that these outdoor classrooms are accessible and safe for our students, and that we're going to be able to make them available during school time and if possible for the community. And then we can always look at the ability to rent them out to help offset some of the maintenance. I do need to spend a little bit more time with Josie and George. I understand everyone is very busy, but I just wanted to give an update that we are able to make progress. We are able to improve things, but it does require everyone coming together. So I appreciate time to date and looking forward to having even more updates and positive news to let everyone know of in upcoming meetings. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm excited that we're able to get traction in such a short period of time. The community really needs this, and they're very engaged and very supportive to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. There are no more speakers.
All right, thank you. Board communications. Trustee Badal, would you like to start?
Sure. Not a lot this month because everyone was just trying to hang on to get through the Omicron crunch there. I did go to the special ed social on the first Wednesday, and it's always really great to see everyone and hear how they're supporting each other. And it's really, really a great group of people. And the Pacifica collaboration on Thursday, where all the nonprofits get together and compare notes and see where they're going forward. Unfortunately, in December we had an in-person meeting. We had to go back to virtual, and we're hoping next month we can go back to in-person. But it's really great to have everybody there and how all the groups in Pacifica can work together. And that's one of the things that makes Pacifica unique. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Villalobos.
Let's see, at the end of last month, I did the Parent Ed series for special education, and the topic was demystifying services. Just the other night, I attended the CPAC meeting for special ed, and I just have a note, just hearing some feedback from some of the parents there that maybe, if it's not too much trouble, if there could be a cheat sheet of special education acronyms, because when a new parent comes into the district, they may not even know what CPAC stands for or SPED. I mean, if they're that new. And also maybe descriptions of the different services that Pacifica School District offers too. So those were just some of the things that I heard. There were a lot more, but that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Patel.
Not much. I met with Superintendent Olson on the 28th, on January 28th. That was my one-to-one. That's it.
Trustee Burkini.
Let's see, I attended my meeting also with Dr. Olson just yesterday. That went well. And I also watched the Pacifica City Council meeting where they discussed the partnership with PSD. So I'm looking forward to that talk this evening. I also met with a parent regarding the fields, and I'm glad to hear Michelle's report out on that tonight. So, and that's it for me. Again, just trying to get through this COVID cycle. So.
Thank you. Same for me. Nothing much to report. It's been pretty quiet. I've done my regular meetings with Superintendent Olson, but nothing for me to report today. So Dr. Olson, what about your communication?
I do not have any correspondence.
All right. Moving along to district business. All right, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our district website, www.pacificasd.org. All right, so moving into CSEA Memorandum of Understanding Agreement and LSCA tentative agreement, Dr. Torres.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Olson. This is an informational memorandum to the Pacifica School District Board of Trustees regarding the most recent MOU agreement between Pacifica School District and the CSEA, and the most recent agreed upon tentative agreement between Pacifica School District and the Laguna Salada Education Association. The Pacifica School District negotiating team met with the CSEA negotiating team on January 10th, 2022 to negotiate. The PSD and CSEA negotiating teams came to an agreement on February 1st, 2022 via email regarding a final CSEA MOU. The Pacifica School District negotiating team met with the LSEA negotiating team on January 19th, 2022 to negotiate and came to an agreement regarding a TA on Article 15, Safety Conditions of Employment. Attached were the MOU and the TA that were agreed upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the trustees? I will start with Trustee Patel, because I see you first.
No questions.
Trustee Bradal.
No questions.
Trustee Burkini.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
All right. That was just an informational item. And of course, my screen just moved, so give me a moment. All right. Is next. Dr. Torres, did you speak on the CSEA initial proposal as well? Because those are separate.
Yeah, I have one more. It's also informational. So it's regarding the CSEA initial proposal for the 22-25 successor negotiations. And the background is that the public notice provisions of the Educational Employment Relations Act requires the California School Employees Association to give public notice of their initial proposal for the 2022-2025 successor negotiations. Initial proposals are made available for public viewing at a stated time and place prior to collective bargaining. This allows the general public an opportunity to review and comment on initial proposals, and their initial proposal was an attachment for you.
Are you okay if I promote President Sayers to panelist to talk about that? I don't want to put her on the spot, but they just ratified it today. So President Sayers, I'm promoting you. Oh, look, there's a dog.
Could you repeat what you wanted me to say or what you're asking?
I just would like to acknowledge the fast turnaround time that your team did in terms of, in order to prepare for what's called sunshining, you have to go through all of the contract and look at the things that you want to bring up. So, and they just ratified it today at 5:30.
1 hour ago. Well, a little more than an hour ago now. Yes, we met a couple of times. We do have a very good union rep right now at this time, and he helped us with it. We went through everything. We have people on our team that have been in the district for a long time, so we know what it says and why it says it, and we wanted to update some of the language, and so it took 2 meetings, maybe about 4 hours, and then we got it through CSEA very fast, and then posted it for our members and just voted on it at our meeting at 5 o'clock. So thank you.
The district did not work nearly as quickly as that, and we'll bring our proposal next time.
Okay, that would be great. We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Supplement to the annual update for the 2021-2022 LCAP, Mr. Lucy.
Well, I'm going to just jump in here right before he gets started as he's putting the presentation up. So this is a new requirement by the state around just a mid-year LCAP. And all 35 slides, Will has promised me that he's not going to read these to you. We put in every single piece of information. We're going to try to keep this presentation to about 20 minutes. But it was a good exercise to do because I think talking to my other superintendent colleagues, none of us had any idea keeping schools open would be so incredibly challenging. And so a huge focus of last year's LCAP was around recovery activities. And you will see that our school has, or our schools or our district have not been able to address some of those, just simply because we've been busy keeping schools open. So just look at this as we are not the only ones that are in this situation, but I really appreciate the time that we'll put into this because it puts us in great position to go out and do our stakeholder engagement. So, Mr. Lucy?
All right, can everybody see the presentation? I just want to make sure it's up there. And also, if you during this, if you're losing me or something, I'm having some broadband stuff going on here, but hopefully I'm okay. But if you're losing me, just hand signal me that you're not being heard. So as Heather had mentioned, this mid-year LCAP update is required by Section 124, Assembly Bill 130, and it requires that each district present a one-time update to the 21-22 LCAP and budget overview for parents at a board meeting. It is an informational item, so there's no approval process for this presentation. It's just for information. There are three parts to this presentation: a supplement. Let me get to the next slide. Yeah, a supplement for the annual update for the 21-22 LCAP. A mid-year outcome data related to metrics, and a mid-year expenditure and implementation data on all actions within the LCAP. This is the budget overview for parents. That first column there is as adopted in June of 21. The budget overview for parents. Those numbers in that first column are the adopted numbers. These were the amounts per the Budget Act in this column, and then these are the differences between the two. The annual update, the supplement to the annual update, which is one of the parts, is broken up into 5 prompts. The first prompt asks to describe engagement with our educational partners around the use of funds that were received through the Budget Act of 2021 and were not included in the LCAP. Prompt 2, Pacifica School District does not receive concentration grant or add-on concentration grant funds, so that prompt doesn't apply to Pacifica School District. Prompt 3 asks to describe engagement with our educational partners around one-time federal funds that are intended to support recovery from COVID-19 pandemic and impacts on distance learning on students. Prompt 4 asks to describe how Pacifica School District is implementing the ESSER 3 expenditure plan. And in prompt 5 asks for a summary of how Pacifica School District is using its physical resources received in the 21-22 school year to implement the requirements of the Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Service Plan and the ESSER 3 expenditure plan, and its alignment to our 2021-2022 LCAP and annual update. So prompt 1, it identified students and staff and community needs through the following ways. So these were surveys, diagnostic. Our surveys were our student, staff, and family surveys. The diagnostic academic assessments, which was our iReady, ESGI, and F&P, and then also site-based and district-wide conversations, which were inclusive. These are not all of them, but the superintendent's weekly chats, the work groups, return to school task forces, etc. Prompt 2, as I said before, does not pertain to us because we do not receive concentration add-on funding So this prompt's not applicable to us. Prompt 3, is our educational partner engagement of one-time federal funds, which we started in 2020 with our surveys, our work groups, our task forces, all of our councils and committee meetings, along with our labor partner meetings. And then 4 was the implementation of the ESSER 3 plan by addressing student needs and the impacts of lost instructional time. So, in addressing the students' academic and social, emotional, and mental health needs, the technology and the technology equipment in the classroom, there was laptops for staff, iPads for ELL support, and technology repair of classrooms. We also provided professional development, or we're also providing professional development around our iReady diagnostic data. And then we increased mental health staffing at each of the school sites. Addressing lost time, the online one-on-one tutoring through paper, and then also some of our sites have before and after school tutoring. We began establishing student study and the processes that are included were established through the student study team's processes. And then our school site collaboration around targeted interventions based on data. There was some PD and some collaboration around that. And then prompt 5, our use of funds and required actions in both these plans are aligned to these 3 priorities in our LCAP. These funds either added actions or supplemented existing actions within our LCAP. I'm not going to read them to you, but there they are. And then now we will look at our mid-year update of the LCAP metrics, expenditures, and implementation data. For the metrics outcomes at this point of the year, some are unknown, some are in progress, and some are known. And then we will do the same thing with the LCAP expenditure and implementation. Again, some have not started, some are in progress, and some are completed. And these are our actions within our LCAP. I had this particular slide as the last slide, but I thought it would be important to actually preface as we go through each action, each metric and each action of each goal in giving a mid-year update, that we need to continue the continuing impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, including the challenges of hiring staff and implementing health and safety protocols and addressing learning acceleration needs due to the impact of distance learning, has presented many challenges in the first half of the school year, which, some of these challenges we didn't know until we were actually in during the school year, especially with the Omicron and the need, the lack of staffing, a lack of substitutes, and so on. Despite these challenges, Pacifica School District is still committed to implementing the LCAP and to provide the necessary services for our students. We'd like to also thank, that our community for the hard work and the resilience of our students and the support of our parents and our dedicated employees to continue to reach our goals and our actions. So we're going to start off with LCAP Goal 1. And Goal 1 addresses working towards a highly qualified, diverse teaching staff and support staff, and providing instructional materials and maintaining safe facilities. So these are the metrics for Goal 1. The first 3 columns are what our existing LCAP, or within our existing LCAP. I want to really highlight the last 2 columns, the mid-year update and the status. In 21-22, we have 4 intern teachers and 1 vacancy. The misassignments have yet to be determined. That is determined through an audit in the spring. 10 of our 19 SPED teachers are PSD employees. And although we received a fair rating on one of our sites in the most recent fit, bond work and other summer work will most likely bring that rating up to at least a good. Spring of 2021, based on teacher surveys, these were the percentages, which are right here. These were the percentages. Teachers will again be surveyed in the spring of 2022. Every student has been assigned, with regards to this metric, every student has been assigned a Chromebook to use at home when needed for schoolwork for the 21-22 school year. We're going to be surveying the family about this metric, but we have put in place a process where they do have access. Every student has access to a Chromebook that they can take home to do their work at home. So now we're looking at the expenditures and the implementation data. The first 2 columns identified the actions and budgeted amounts for those actions. Again, these are things that are already in the LCAP, right? And the last 2 columns identify the estimate of funds spent on that action up to this point, and the implementation status. So I highlighted this because the posted presentation had an amount here that was an estimated actual, and it was inaccurate. In this area, there's been ongoing and monitoring through our local colleges, social media, and job postings. But the fairs are coming up soon that are going to be where some of these funds are going to be utilized. So although there's no money spent in that area, there has been ongoing recruitment and monitoring has been occurring. The new certificated staff professional support, we are part of the county induction program, which is part of this $95,000 is paid through that to provide professional development and support for new teachers, and also the new teacher orientation and the on-site ongoing support our new teachers receive. The instructional adopted curriculum and supports program and resources, with the inclusion of online adopted curriculums, that put us over budget in this area. A lot of what we did during distance learning that could be effective in in-person learning, we continued on, which caused the budget to be expanded in that area. Our adoption of a science curriculum and our science safety training, that's been postponed. We're hoping in the spring of 2022 that we can begin that process. That involves putting together a committee of teachers. And at this point, because of limited staffing and also staff capacity at this point, we weren't able to start that training or start putting those committees together. And then the technology equipment in the classroom, like I said, there has been funding spent for laptops for staff, iPads for ELL support and SPED. And then there's been a lot of repairs for classroom technology. And this, I can tell you with pretty much certainty, is an ongoing thing and will be ongoing throughout this entire year, and I would assume future years. Our data systems and platforms monitoring, there's annual costs that we spend for Data Zone and Jupyter and Synergy and School Messenger, and that's where that $28,000 up to this point of the year, we've spent that amount of money on those annual costs. Internet connectivity for all students, we have spent $77,000 for those students and families that don't have great Wi-Fi or great internet access at home. So they have these 70 hotspots are out there amongst our school community for those families that need it. And this is the cost through December 2021. That's going to be an ongoing cost throughout the year. So again, this is something that is over budget, but needed. So goal 2 addresses student achievement. And the metrics here for the SBAC and SBAC ELA and math metrics are in progress because they will be taken in the spring, obviously, and they will be reestablishing a baseline for those results. There's going to be, we're going to need to reestablish a baseline because we won't be able to compare it to the 1920 and the 2021 SBAC scores first, because 1920 we didn't have SBAC, and 2021 we had SBAC, but it was to a limited population, and this test was modified. So we're gonna have to reestablish the baseline for that, and that'll be part of the work we'll be doing when we establish a 22-23 LCAP. iReady, the iReady based metrics for both reading and math we have established a baseline on the first diagnostic. For reading, 27% of are at risk for not meeting the ELA grade level standards, and 26% of our students are at risk for in math. We want to reduce that to 15%. The second diagnostic has just been completed, and we are receiving data from that. And we will, at the March board meeting, we'll go a little more in depth with that iReady data through a presentation on that day of the data from both the diagnostic 1 and the diagnostic 2. For both of the next 2 metrics, the data will not be available at least until at least late spring. And that is the percentage of English learners who move up 1 performance level and then also are at risk. I can tell you with our long-term English learners and are at risk, we just redesignated, which does have an effect on those numbers. We just redesignated 38 English learners to fluent English proficient. So those have been redesignated. So I think those numbers will look a lot better. And the actions for goal 2, due to staffing shortage and staff capacity due to COVID related issues, many actions within goal 2 that involve staff extra time or substitute have either been postponed or implemented during predetermined PD times within staff workdays. To highlight is the purchase and implementation of the iReady and ESGI assessments, along with the professional development on analyzing and intervention and supporting, and the supports based off the iReady diagnostic results. Also, San Mateo County has and will provide PD at some sites on supporting English learners' academic and language proficiency growth. School site screen teams, I think I'm on the next one. Yeah. School site screen teams are in the process of being developed. Special education has been in the process of a study, recommendations on improved effectiveness and efficiency of our special ed services. And there's going to be a board presentation of those recommendations coming up. And then, sirs, yes. And then, is there anything else? I'm just highlighting some of them. We do still have our support at Sunset Ridge, student support there. And that amount there is the amount up to now that has been spent for this school year on that. And then we continue to have our math paraprofessional support for those combination classes. And again, that amount is $27,000 is the amount that's been up to this point of the year. Goal 3 addresses social and mental health and safety of our students and supporting school climate and meaningful parent-guardian participation. And the metrics for Goal 3 measure the implementation of SEL program, suspension, attendance, and parent and student surveys. Although staff has had training on caring school community, we do not, as of yet, have data on the level of implementation. We know that it's being implemented, but we don't know the level of implementation. That was to be determined through an assessment, a student assessment of it, and that we don't have that data at this point. We hope to have it. I expect to have it by the end of this school year. The CDE recommends caution when comparing discipline and attendance data across academic years because of the effect of the pandemic and distance learning on that data. So that's kind of the caveat of both our, reduce the suspension rate, our chronic absenteeism rate, and our attendance rate. The CD recommends that we be careful about that, and for obvious reasons. We have attendance issues that are COVID related because they're inclusive of excused and unexcused absences. So these numbers are a bit skewed because of that. Parent and student surveys do have comparable data and will be surveyed again this spring. This column here is the mid-year update. So this was December of 21, the percent of students, parent surveys regarding decision-making of positive responses, positive response percentage, and in parent participation and students for school safety and student safety, and then school connectedness. They will be again surveyed again in the spring, so we'll be able to see a little more, where those numbers go within the spring, being able to compare those two. So this is now LCAP goal of action 3. Students surveyed students, families, and staff in October of this school year. Actually, it was December of this school year. Was this school year, and it will be again. Will be surveyed again later this spring. PD for caring school community and SEL program costs up to now have been extra hours for staff to attend PD. The funding of virtual conferences when needed. We've that fund there, the 2,200 is not connected to the parent view, cost for parent view and synergy. It's more connected to those costs that are related to providing virtual conferences for teachers and for staff within that. And then our parent engagement involvement, that money there has been spent for Tanae Weller, who's provided family engagement coaching sessions and staff professional development for each of our school sites. The school climate and safety teams are in place or are being established at each of the school sites. Those numbers there are costs that are associated with that. Many of the school sites are at different places along that line, but they all have student study teams. Their processes are being adjusted based off need. And the foster youth, our district liaison within their student service department connects with schools to monitor support for our foster youth and homeless. A site liaison has not been identified due to required training delays. So each of the sites do not have an identified liaison yet. That is the action that we want to accomplish. Is we want to identify someone at the site that becomes the liaison. Right now, it is from our student services department. They contact the principals and the school regarding support for the foster youth and homeless within our district. We have full-time counselors at each of our 6 sites. Now at Ocean Shore, we have a part-time counselor, but they also have a YSB support. But the counselors are in place, and that amount there is the amount that's been up to this point on that. The diversity, family engagement, and leadership meetings are planned for later in the spring of 2022. Our SO team, we do have a SO team, a district-wide SO team. At this point, that we are working to recruit site teachers or site staff to be part of that. It's right now it's a district team. It's made up of the school psychologists and the staff members who are part of the mental health support. And then the student attendance is connected to the SO team, in that's one of their charges within the SO team is to monitor student attendance and to help support sites. Student attendance is also monitored at the sites, but that 6,000 is allotted for staff to be able to be part of this team to allow for monitoring of staff along with other climate and social, emotional related supports. So our SEL curriculum, I've already mentioned this before, this is kind of a repeat action, but this particular action actually pertains to the cost of the program, which was county managed and through a county grant. And so that's where that cost is associated with. We do have an ongoing partnership with PRC or Pacifica Resource Center. At this point, there has been no funds that have been spent there, but we do have funding there just in case we want to support that partnership with the Pacifica Resource Center. And in the implicit bias and cultural relevant professional development, that has not occurred yet on a site-based or at a, that's our hope is to actually have that implemented. This action was a 3-year action that we wanted to do within the 3 years of the LCAP. We're hoping to get that going as soon as possible. And then our world language program, we have the Spanish program at Sunset Ridge, and then we also have that 8th grade district-wide class, a Spanish 1 class. And then our next steps are, because this is a mid-year update, we are going to continue. This is highlighted because it's not, we used to call it stakeholder engagement, where now it's referred to as educational partner engagement. We are going to be continuing through the LCAP process of engaging our educational partners. We are reviewing the iReady assessments, and there will be a presentation at the March 9th board meeting. There'll be a budget update at the March 9th board meeting. The board work study for the LCAP and budget is going to be on May 11th, and the LCAP public hearing on June 1st, and then LCAP recommendation for approval will be June 15th. So there's going to be a lot that's going to go on between now and the middle of May and to the end of May regarding engaging and continuing to look at these actions a little more closely, and then in the development of the 22-23 LCAP. So are there any questions that you have or anything I can answer about this mid-year this is an informational item, so it's not, there's no need for an approval on it. Just, do you have any questions?
I just have a quick question, just so I understand the budgeted expenditure. Are these based on the supplemental prompts, or were those budgeted expenditures done back when the budget was adopted?
So, are you referring to that slide on the BOP where it showed the difference between the two?
No. So, and maybe actually correct me if I'm misunderstanding what the supplement means. So, because there is an additional amount of funds per the updated Budget Act, were we asked to update the LCAP with additional actions or show additional supports, or am I misunderstanding kind of the context here?
Okay, yes. So the actual additional funds would come through funds that we received from, and many of them are COVID-related funds that were received federally or state. So the Budget Act is the state funds that were received, and the federal funds are received through the ESSER, mostly through ESSER 3. Since the approval of the LCAP in June, those funds that were approved after that, that's the whole purpose of this mid-year, is that you got all this extra funding, right? They want to be assured of two things. First, that the funds are used as required. That's number one. And then the other thing is that they want to make sure that these funds are supplemental, or if they are, they're added on things that they're not. We need to be assured that these are not things that are required to have year to year to year, because these are one-time fundings. So that's the big reason for this. This supplemental, this mid-year, this supplemental to the annual update will be a part of the LCAP 22-23. So this will actually be a part of it, but it's more for those funds that they're not the supplemental funds that are in our budget every year. And the sites get a certain amount of supplemental funds for unduplicated pupils. These are funds that were added due to COVID. These were the kind of COVID-related funds.
Thank you. And then just one other question. I know that a lot of the spending has been postponed per the comments that you had on many of the sections. Do you have a sense of when some of that can pick up and when those supports can be implemented?
Well, it actually depends on the actions that have been postponed. Like, I can take, for example, the science adoption, right? We need someone to lead that. We need to put together a committee and put together. So, realistically, I don't see that happening in the spring, but other things like the PD and the collaboration, as things settle down and we're not short on subs or short on these capacities, we may be able to start some of that as into the spring, so that we are kind of springboarding into the next year with regards to that. So many of this extra funding is a 2-year or 3-year. It has to be spent by June of 24, or depending on the plan, depending on the particular plan. So we do have time, but what the unfortunate part is that we had this plan that we were going to start it right off the bat, and then we're all in schools because they don't have subs, so we're having to sub ourselves. It's good. So and then the staff themselves, it's hard. You want after school tutoring, right? And then so that you ask your staff who would be willing to do after school tutoring. They are so busy and so overwhelmed with just handling the day-to-day piece and providing quality instruction within their class during the day, that it's hard for them to be asked to, okay, can you take on this additional thing within these protocols, and making sure that we have these pieces in place. So yeah, it's been a struggle. So I guess I can't commit to an answer, but it's really depending on the actions themselves. There's ones that we want to get going as soon as we possibly can, and then there's others that realistically, like I said, the science adoption, I mean, that's something we need to have, but it's not realistic that it's going to happen in the spring because there's so many pieces that have to be put in place to allow that to happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. I think my only comment there would be for the things where obviously we have staff shortages or, those are the reasons why we're not able to move on them fast. That makes total sense. I think in some of the areas, because we do have one-time funding, if that issue or item can be paid for effectively, in some ways, I think we should think about if it costs a little bit more, but we can do it faster. Some of these supports I think are really important, like the after school tutoring. Is there a way to contract with a third party or something like that so that students are getting that support, but certainly not overburdening teaching staff?
Yeah, we Heather and I are going to be talking about looking at an outside source to actually support that. We're looking at different ideas because, it is, and we do have some after school tutoring occurring, but it's not comprehensive like we want it to be, across the board. So, I totally saying, and those are higher priorities. Those are higher priorities, especially when we're going through this iReady data and we're identifying students that are really, really needy in those areas. And they do need that, it's not like an extra perk for them. They need it. If they don't get it, then it's not going to be good. So yeah, we're trying to make it a high priority.
I just have one question about the implicit bias in culturally relevant professional development. As you know, the board and Superintendent Olson just finished the racial and equity series. And so I feel like, do we have a prospective date or like a first step that we're taking to research what kind of professional development will be held?
Yep. I think next school year, principals, management and principals will get started on some of the work with Nicole Anderson. And then it would happen at the school sites as well. But it's probably unlikely that anything will get started this year. On the February 28th day, Ingrid B. Lacey is working on Circle Up and implicit bias.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else with questions?
I just wanted to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Trustee Patel was saying. I know we've gone through an incredibly hard time right now, but I guess what I'm worried about is the students that did get the virus in the last month and have been, no fault of their own, had to miss 10 to 15 days of school. And then now they're coming back and trying to catch up. And, kids that were probably really working hard before, and now they're found themselves at a deficit here at the middle of the year. And I'd hate to lose those students, midway through. So I guess I just want to reiterate, I think as I see the numbers are much more improved this week, but that as we kind of get over this little bump, that we really focus in on catching those kids up that just really need the help, and that they couldn't help it, that they couldn't go to school for that amount of time. So that's it. Thank you.
Linda, thank you for stating that. I know one of the things I feel very positive about is that the school sites, and they're going to be again looking at it on the 16th. They're going to be going through their data, and they're going to be looking at not just the students that are performing in those bracketed areas of 2 years or 3 years below, right? but they're also looking at progress about how they've progressed since the first diagnostic. And that really shines through of those students that have missed 10, 15 days of school because of COVID related issues. So one of the things I feel really positive about is that this idea that the teachers are going to be, and the sites are going to be much more aware of who those students are, and not just in their classrooms, but school-wide. And then, this is our challenge is making sure that we provide time for them to say, okay, within the constraints of limited subs, within the constraints of all this, how can we provide extra or needed support for those students in those particular areas, academic areas. So that is in the forefront of our minds, but I feel pretty good about how up to now we've been going through monitoring. The principals had a meeting with the iReady trainer, and I was impressed with their knowledge of their own site and where those students are. We just need to continue that at the teacher level, and just keep bringing those students up and saying, okay, what do we need to do with those students, instead of just, kind of throwing our hands up, if you know what I mean. So
I think I just want to jump in here, which is that we just finished meetings with each individual principal around what their school needs and what they're thinking about for next year, and did offer after school tutoring or other things. The reality is that maybe a school has one person that's available to do it, but it's not to the degree that as we were returning to school that we thought tutoring would be available. So we are looking at maybe some electronic or some virtual options. We have paper tutoring for 7th and 8th grade. Next year, we'll probably have that for 6th grade. This is not at all where we want to be, but we also just recognize that so much energy is going into keeping schools open. The other part that I think you'll be pleased to see in March is that the treatment is working for many students. Students are making progress. Being in school matters a lot. And we're seeing that in terms of growth from the different schools. So thank you for your questions on that, because we did not think we were going to be in this situation. We thought, okay, we've got these great plans, let's go at it. But the reality is, and this will come up as we talk about summer school, is having people that are available and ready to do that. I don't know that we do have people that are available. So we're offering, like, each school maybe said, okay, well, maybe this one teacher will do it, but the reality is it's not in force. So I think a big part of the spring that we want to think about is how can we expand learning opportunities where, right now, expanded learning opportunities is just keeping schools open, but how do we do more with not enough people to do that?
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
All right. So that was C. All right. Comprehensive school safety plans and security of school facilities. Mr. Barfield.
Oops, can't hear you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Olson. It is that time where we are asking for your consideration for approval for our comprehensive school safety plans. We're required to update, adopt, and approve these plans by March 1st. That's our requirement. So in closed session, you have already approved the tactical version. So for this piece, it is we're looking for your approval for the non-tactical school safety plans, which is attached and posted with this meeting.
Do we have any questions? I'll go around. Trustee Patel.
No questions. Thank you.
Burkini.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
Trustee Burdell?
No real questions, but in the IBL one, I know that a lot of work went into this and a lot of it's the same for every school. And there were a couple pages where it referred to Cabrillo School. So that just needs to be changed to IBL. I think that was page 13 and 15. But totally understandable because so much of it is the same and a lot of work went into it. So thank you for all the detail.
Thank you. We'll make those corrections. Thank you so much.
So do I have a motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plans and security of school facilities non-tactical portion?
I'll motion to approve.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the roll call?
Yes. Trustee Burdell?
Yes.
Trustee Burkini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Patel?
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is summer school, Dr. Olson.
So this board item came at the request of a trustee to discuss the possibility of summer school. Last board meeting, we presented where that there will be construction on 6 of the school sites. So of all the summers that this seems like a not realistic possibility, this is the one. Later in the board agenda is approval of the contract around roofing. So we didn't approve that contract first so that you could have this discussion. But our challenge is getting significant construction projects done during the summer. And CC Ming has a very robust plan. So I'm not certain how much summer school we can offer. We do every year host extended school year for special education students who require the service to avoid significant regression in their IEP goals. Last year it was held at Ortega. This year, our thinking is that we will hold ESY at Lindemar because the other 6 sites are going to have construction. And so that's the thinking around that. So I will open it up for board discussion around summer school.
All right, I will go around the room. Trustee Bikini.
No comment.
Okay, Trustee Riddell.
I think that with the teachers, I mean, obviously the students need the extended school year. I think our staff and teachers are extremely stressed. So the thought of them not getting a break would probably break them at this point. But I was wondering, there used to be, in the past, we've had like a specific math program or something like that. I know my son worked it. I'd have to look up the name. That was in collaboration. We had it also Jefferson Union High School, where it was specifically for certain subjects with the help of an outside company. And I thought maybe that's something we could look into to help in those areas. That
I'm quite certain is Silicon Valley Educational Foundation's math program. So in my previous district, sometimes they are able to get another math teacher. They don't always have to be your own math teachers. Ideally, it is great if they are your own math teachers, but if you don't have them available, sometimes they can bring them in. So we could look at that. Because I know that was something, like I said, my son couldn't work in our district, but he helped with Jefferson Union High School. And then we had another company that did ours. And I'm sure there would be something with other subjects where the teachers are geared up and mentally ready to work in the summer, where I think ours are going to need a break. Look at that.
Trustee Patel.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Trustee Burdell mentioned around what alternatives there are. I completely understand that our sites would not be safe to house students during the summer, but if there are other public sites that we can partner with other third parties that can provide the support. Again, I'm just conscious of this is the year to kind of do as much as we can.
Okay, Trustee Villalobos.
Well, I'm the one who suggested that we put this on the agenda. The reasoning was after we reviewed the iReady results and that a high number of our students are 1 to 2 years behind in math and science is really concerning. And I know we haven't had summer school for a long time, but I think this is the time to do it. And I love Elizabeth's idea. And I hear, what I'm hearing from you is that the teachers and the staff are just bombarded and overwhelmed. But I haven't heard that from LSEA or CSEA. And so if they have any input on that, that would be appreciated. Also, you know, our sites are getting new roofs. And, you know, is there a way we could ask Oceana High School if we can use 1 or 2 of their classrooms during the summertime, or Terra Nova, or one of each, and, you know, try to look into alternatives for catching, you know, letting our kids catch up in math, especially, or English, or whatever, you know, wherever the iReady is most needed for them. Or Lindemar Center, I know that's where you're having the extended school year. You know, I know it's a big school though, so is there room there? So that's just my hope and feeling, is that we can catch some of the children up who are far behind.
We will, just to answer your question about LSEA, before every board meeting, we do meet with LSEA, and not this time, but the previous time, there was concern about being able to find enough staffing for a summer school, just not feeling like there was that capacity on that end. But we will look at outside vendors in terms of Silicon Valley mathematics, Silicon Valley Ed Foundation's math program to see if that's the case. And then we will look at, we are having, Spindrift is, and Pacifica School Volunteers is having some programs at IBL. So we could find some, maybe find some space at IBL if we can get the teachers and the vendors, then we could look at having those programs.
I'm just curious too, if we still have any funding left over for that purpose, specifically for COVID.
Oh, absolutely. I think the group, the category that it falls into is expanded learning opportunities. And again, you know, Pacifica School District and other school districts are finding themselves challenged to have the people to use them, to use those funds. And so there is funding there available. So we will look at how to see if we can offer something to our students with the highest level of need.
Can that funding be used for another company? If we'd had an outside company come in, can that funding be used for something other than our direct employees?
So I think we can definitely use that.
So are we going to bring this back to discuss on the next one, see what we come up with?
If you would be so kind, in our next meeting, we are very full. We're talking about the LCAP and the budget. And I'm not certain that we would make significant progress, but we could do it in an April meeting.
Right. Anybody else, any more questions? All right, next up is working group on priorities and funding update. Dr. Olson.
I am just now texting our presenters or our guests for the next one. Almost ready. Please join us. So last night, we had our first working group. Our working group consists of 6 parents.